Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our second webinar. Same as last time. Hopefully this is pretty relaxed. I'm trying kind of some new stuff today. I'm going to be showing stuff that's so new. It actually just came out yesterday. So fingers crossed for me. Should go smooth. Um, I was just talking about this, but quick note on vibes. I said this last time. I don't want this to be like a formal webinar. I want it to be pretty casual. So if you have questions, post in the chat. I'll answer them however I can as I go. And it should just be like me talking to you very casually. A little bit about me quickly. I lead product at Arcol. I am a Canadian, the sole Canadian on the team. Um, and then I worked in architecture previously before tech. So I've done all these workflows that we're now trying to make better. And this is my third startup. So I've worked kind of early stage companies before. Okay, so the current workflow, again, just briefly, today in feasibility, firms are using a whole bunch of different tools. We've seen everything from using AutoCAD and having blocks tied to Excel sheets to using super thick floors in Revit for massing to just drawing everything in Bluebeam. The common theme is that none of those tools really are built for feasibility, so they're all kind of shoehorned into a particular workflow that kind of works. And it technically does work in most cases, but it's not super efficient, and there's a lot of coordination issues, etc. So Arcol is meant to make all of this much faster and connected and just generally better. So you can see a little bit in the screenshot here. Basically, you can mass, you get instant site context, stuff I'll show you in a second here. You get data connected to your model. So easy to coordinate, easy to get site context going, and make your whole process faster because feasibility you're not typically getting paid for, so the faster you can get through it, the better. So today we are going to be talking about how Arcol is for communication. And I've got these bullets that we'll go through, but my large claim I'm going to make today that is the new stuff I'm talking about is that Arcol is the only tool for feasibility that you can go completely from zero all the way through to presentation docs and deliverables. And I won't claim we're going to replace Photoshop for you or something like that, but you'll see it kind of where we're at for presentation docs and again, how easy and connected and fast that it is. So as a brief reminder, and this is what I was just talking about, you can very easily create a model. You get instant site context in Arcol. I talked about this in the last webinar. If you're interested, you can check it out. You can work at a high kind of Excel level of building functions. And so, and you get automatic unit counts out of that. You can very quickly generate design options. What I want to get into today is a more granular chunk of this. So actually getting in, splitting these floor plates into actual units to get more accurate unit counts and area plans. And then we'll start doing documentation and stuff around that. So before all this, boards for pre-project collaboration, brainstorming, and mood boarding. So Arcol has the 3D, which I was just showing you, and then we have these things called boards. And boards are just infinite canvases. So let me move my window out of the way a little bit here. These boards function the same as you might use a whiteboard today. So you can drop images on it, you can add text, you can quickly and easily draw shapes, etc. And so for a pre-project perspective, some firms we speak to, they use Miro or Mural or some sort of tool, and they'll actually come in here internally initially, and they'll drop a bunch of inspiration images here, get a sense of kind of a mood board, and then they'll start chatting with the client and get feedback. So you absolutely can share this out. It's browser-based, so you would just send your client or someone internal the link to the project. They would get in here, they can start adding comments. And before your project's even begun, you can start establishing what's the look and feel of the project. What kinds of, say you're doing a tower, what kinds of existing podium precedents do you like that you would propose? My way I used to do this back in the day was we would basically just print out like 300 pictures on paper, pin them all up on the wall, and then have a client come through and start pulling stuff off the wall that they like. You can do that all here. Um, Another interesting use case we've heard is that for, say, lab and science typologies, um, firms use whiteboarding tools for collaborating with the scientists and the people in the labs to do initial desk layouts. And so you can imagine this might be a desk. Lab person would come in here and say, yeah, typically we've got, I don't know, 3 desks side by side. Let's make this a little easier to see. And usually I have a little bit of a piece that wraps around on the side here. So you can at least get a sense early on of what kind of layouts you're working with and what the client requirements are. In-model comments. So I just showed that a little bit. At any stage of the project, you can use comments. So this is an example of project hasn't been begun, clients in here, and you're having a conversation in the model. The beauty of this is that rather than you, even at the earliest stages, producing some docs and printing out PDFs and emailing back and forth and having conversations over email, you could do that all in your project. So this really sets a solid foundation for now the next chunk of your model. All these design decisions live in this one place, and you can constantly go back and reference them because they're literally in your model, right? But this applies to 3D as well. So if we start getting into 3D here, let's bring in a project location. Today, I'll just use our kind of typical New York location. Last webinar, we were in Chicago. Again, you can check that out if you're interested. So as I start getting into 3D here, I'm not going to bother spending time to put setbacks or any of that stuff on here. I'm just going to draw kind of a simple mass. Snapping here. So I'll get much more detailed in a second, but say you have this residential mass, right? You can absolutely comment in here too. So somebody might say, this should have a step back to look better. I don't know, some sort of internal comment. Again, now this lives in your model. It's not via screenshots and emails and stuff like that. All those decisions, all those conversations happen in your model. And the comment is contextual, so it sticks. So if I start moving around my building and adjusting my building, the comment is going to remain where it is. So you always have the context of what was happening with that comment. When you're done those conversations, you can simply resolve them, and they don't disappear forever. So again, you're keeping that record of decision making in your project. You can always go back. If I go into my comments here, I simply just show resolved comments, and now they're all visible again. I can bring it back out of being resolved if I need to continue the conversation or something like that. But you can use these as effectively a checklist of items within your project and resolve them as you go. Okay, boards for presentation docs. There's a little bit of work that we have to do before we get to that. So like I mentioned, we can get more detailed here. Something we didn't go much into in the last webinar is floor plans. And so floor plans are very flexible. They do a bunch of stuff. First of all, to note is when you split your extrusion into floors, by default, every floor has this floor plan 1 as a default. And so if I want to start, say, let's start from a geometry perspective. Say I want to step this back. I can come in here and create a new floor plan. And that is now going to, whoops, like I said, new stuff that I'm showing here. That is going to now this particular floor. Oh, okay, let's try that again. Here we go. Floor plan 2, there we go. So this particular floor now has floor plan 2, whereas all the others have floor plan 1. And now they function as separate things. So I can either push pull this to say I want exactly a 20-foot step back. Oops, negative 20 is what we want in that case. Or I can, in 3D, manipulate the geometry like this. Or like you initially saw, I have a floor plan view actually dedicated to this. And this is going to give you a benefit of kind of always on labels in terms of area types, area, dimensions, and you can fine tune and tweak in this as well. This is probably the view where you would then go into the next level of detail that I described. So if I want, say, units that have a depth of, let's say, a 40-foot depth, let's do that. And let's run it along the entire course of the building here. Make sure it's parallel. I can now start splitting this up into units. So say I've got 40 by 20, well, what's a reasonable width? 24 width, something, 24-foot width. I can begin splitting up these into chunks. And I won't go through the whole process. I won't make you watch it, but let's do a few different things here. Let's do a few units and let's do a corridor up the middle here, like a 8-foot corridor. And let's, for the sake of this, let's pretend that these are like two obviously ridiculously oversized, very large units. What are these? 6,000 square feet each. So now I know, okay, this is still at a high level. These are all still residential function assigned. That's what this unit count's being driven off of. But if I want to get more detailed, I've now come in here. I've split this up into an area plan. I can select each of these areas and assign an area type. So 960 square feet, say that we're going all big on everything. So let's say this is a 2-bedroom. I can make these all 2 bedrooms. And then these really big ones, let's say these are 3 bedrooms. So let's go here, 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom. And then I've got my corridor up the middle, like so. And now, oh, I missed one. This one needs to be, let's say, a 3-bedroom. Okay, new stuff. So now you've got a sense of, if I go out here, I get the more granular level of detail. So I have all of these area plans and I have specific unit counts to each of those. And so if I come over here, it's all live updating as you would expect. So if I start adding a bunch of those floors with that floor plan, my unit counts are going to be reflected accordingly. And I now have, if I really quickly come in here and let's just split this up into two big units with the corridor, just so you get a sense of what it looks like. Let's make this 3-bedroom and this, say, a 2-bedroom. Oops, wrong area. 2-bedroom and this is a corridor. What you're going to get now is, let's see. Okay, there we go. Cool. You're going to get those different floor plans on different floors. So you got here, here's all your 3 beds and your 2 beds. You get a block and stack diagram, basically. And because the floor plan differs per floor, again, you can change the geometry and it'll affect all the appropriate floors. So if I adjust this, all the floors with that floor plan are now going to adapt and adjust. And so you can imagine this process in SketchUp would just take a long time. You would basically have to make these all as individual blocks, piece them all together, and then maybe have them as components, but this just makes it a lot simpler and you get the data off of it. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? You get the actual amount of units that update in real time as you go, and you get parking requirements based off of that as well. So, okay, so I've got something, it's not, let's make it just a little bit nicer looking. Let's go scooch this in over here and then move the whole mass because it's kind of hanging off the end here. Let's go, oops. Okay. Scooch this over. All right, now we have more of a proper setback. Obviously, I'm kind of flying through this. You'd be a lot more careful, but now we have a decent-ish looking building, and I have ready for my documentation side of things. So let's talk about boards for presentation docs. So this is the new stuff that I was mentioning. If I come in here, I'll do the super fast way and then I'll do the kind of how I made it. So the super fast thing is I want to add a sheet to my board. So that's what makes us unique to other whiteboarding tools is you actually have sheets. You can put views on sheets. I have a template sheet that I made previously. So say this is a typical cover on my feasibility projects. If I come in here, it looks like, okay, I've got a view, site area, building total area, total unit count, and then a breakdown of the different kinds of unit counts that there are. All I have to do in this case is start hooking things up. So this is a placeholder view. I just come in here. First of all, let's make sure our view is set up all nice. Let's do like a 3D view, and let's actually just turn off the site context. So it's kind of a focus on the building. So if I come in here, I can set that to be 3D view. Boom, there's my building. I can come in here. I just need to hook up the view that this is attached to. So I can do that in this case. In this case, looks like I didn't make my template fully accommodate the width that I need here, but I can adjust that. That's fine. Unit count. So again, hook up the view. There's your number. Hook up the view for source. So now this one I have to pick actually what area types that I want to be counting. So let's say I want to count studios. I want to count one beds. And I want to count out. I think I didn't actually assign any one beds and two beds, which would help. 2-bed count. Okay, so we can go back. Let's do it in a second. So you can see I don't have any studios and I don't have any one beds. That is accurate. This is all pulling numbers from my model. The beauty of that, and you'll see it in a second here, I'll actually do it, is that this is all live updating stuff. So if I come into 3D here, let's do exactly that. Let's edit this and make this instead of well, let's do something more realistic. Instead of this small thing, I've now got a studio. Because that's based off a floor plan, every floor of that floor plan now has a studio in that location. And in terms of the numbers here, now I have 9 studios and less 2 bedrooms because I got rid of some of those, and my view is updated. So you can imagine the possibilities here. Again, the typical process would be you export this view out of SketchUp, you export, or not even export, you manually enter these numbers from Excel or somewhere, you dump it all into InDesign as a doc. And now if this model changes, well, these numbers need to be coordinated, and that all needs to be coordinated in InDesign. And it's just this like endless cycle of work, right? And so this case, you have a template set up for your firm, and you can dump in everything you need, and it's all hooked up and connected and ready to go. Super quick. I mean, making the template is as easy as I have a sheet. I just put it on a tabloid sheet here, and I put a view like so, and then I added a bunch of that metrics data. So, oh, where did it go? Oh, here it is. I added a bunch of this, hooked it up to whatever I wanted to hook it up to. I drew a line using our pen tool, and you could draw whatever shapes. I dragged in a logo, resized it, put a little bit of text, like an actual text box here, just called it, say, sheet name. And then from there, I just save it, give it a name. It's created. It shows up now in your sheet list. And then from here, you can publish it. And when you publish it, everybody in your company now has access to this template in their projects. So again, just making it faster, making it easier. Right. Before I get to sheet sets, I want to show you just again, in the nature of communication, collaboration, what Arcol looks like in multiplayer. That's why I'm sharing my whole screen right now, not just a tab. So if I do a new tab here, one of the big benefits of Arcol is that, let's turn this back on. I have to update my view. Let's do that. Update. And reset. Oops. Okay. So one of the huge benefits is that because it's browser-based, you can share with anybody, and they can now work together in the same file. So as I move my tab, you'll see my cursor will show up in the other one, and vice versa. So you can be working here together. You can have your views, as you can see here, you can have kind of local views to each other that then you sync in a more traditional way, maybe to have everybody have the same view. But you can very easily add, adapt, work in real time. You know, if I change this from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, all these changes happen in real time. So no more project.final underscore final, whatever. It's all up to date. It's auto saving as you go. And if you're wanting to show somebody or communicate something with somebody, you don't have to get on a Zoom, open up your SketchUp file, do some change and show them, and then try and coordinate how that change is going to get pushed over and worked. You just do it in real time, just like this. Okay, brief detour. Let's talk sheet sets. So I now have, we don't need our template, so let's just get rid of that. I now have a sheet. You could have multiple sheets or whatever. You can export this as a PDF if you want to have that frozen in time version to pass off to somebody, but you can also do sheet sets. And so sheet sets in Arcol allow you to have this link that you can send to somebody, and they get what looks like, you can see here, it looks like a PDF, but this is a live updating document. So great for, say, internal feedback. You can comment in here the same way you would in a model, and those comments will come back through into the project. So again, getting rid of email in that case. And it really is, I mean, why don't I do the kind of extra fancy bit? I'll do it in multiple tabs here again. So to show you the live updating aspect of it, if I come into 3D, again, you can see all your numbers here. It's all connected to the model. You can see your model view. If I adjust things, you can see it's all updating in real time. So whoever has that link, you can be having a conversation without them having to actually be in the model. You can kind of contain it and put it in a bucket and wrap it up nicely for them. And then they can give feedback based off of that. Okay. Last thing, I know we're hitting the end of our half hour here soon. Last thing I want to show you is exporting to other tools. So I won't go through every single one. I'm going to focus on one of them, but we know that it's very important to be able to get your data out of this, right? And so you can, from here, moving on to the next phase of a project, you can download the model as a GLB. That's a generic 3D format that'll let you bring it into Rhino or whatever tool as a mesh. You can download it as an STL. That's what I'm going to show in a second. That actually lets you bring it into SketchUp as editable geometry. You can download all of this data here as a CSV and continue crunching numbers in Excel if there's more detailed stuff you want to do. You can just dump out this view as a screen capture, and then if you want to use InDesign or whatever your existing tool is, you can do that. Or you can download as a .arcol file. And from there, we have a Revit add-in that lets you bring into Revit as a Revit mass. And from there, you can start attaching your walls and floors, et cetera, and have your building to work from. So let's look at what STL would actually do. So I've now got this STL file dumped out. Don't need this tab anymore. Don't need this tab anymore. Okay. So I've got my file on my desktop here. I've got SketchUp open. Let me bring it over. Let's see, how's this going to work? There we go. Cool. So here's SketchUp. And from here, it really is as easy as import, find your model. So here's my model here, import it, and boom, I've got my model. And like I mentioned, so I think it actually comes into SketchUp. Yeah, it's like one big group. So I just have to explode this. And at that point, I've got all my faces editable and ready to go. So that applies, to really any of the geometry, whatever I want. Obviously, if I wanted to clean this up, I could do this in Arcol too, but you might want to have just single faces that you're working from at this point that you can push pull. So a lot of firms we talk to, this is kind of the next step. They have a sense of, yes, the building will fit. Yes, the units are satisfied or whatever the program requirements are. Now they want to start detailing and adding kind of pretty small finite detail to the model, or even just more more general mass creation. You can absolutely bring Arcol into SketchUp and then continue on your existing workflow. So Arcol is built to um, yes, replace certain pieces of your workflow ideally, but also to slot into your existing workflow as needed. So that's it. I haven't seen any main questions coming in the chat, so we can wrap it up here. But if this was all interesting to you, you can head over to arcol.io. There's a giant book a demo page. It's got our demo email here. We'd love to hear from you. Just general questions are fine too. Alternatively, you can reach out to myself. It's just mike@arcol.io, or our CEO, Paul, is just paul@arcol.io. We'd love to hear from you about what you think of all this and how this could be useful to you and how we can help you out. So without further ado, we will wrap it there. Thanks, everyone. See you on the next one.